Okay, so this topic is going to be a little complicated, but it's also going to be important, a little heavy, very difficult and complicated dynamics here. But I've seen this more times than I can count. Okay, it is basically that if you are in a high conflict custody situation, divorce, custody with a high conflict type, right? It could be a personality disorder, borderline narcissism, antisocial, one of those. You can expect them, because narcissists do this especially, but I've also seen it with other personality disorders. Antisocial will definitely do this. Kind of gather their henchmen. And they kind of do that where they basically kind of try to rope an expert into supporting their narrative. And unfortunately, this is the truth, and I've seen it many times. Therapists and mental health professionals fall into this far more than most. And it's often because some of these therapists, they're often green, they're new, they're inexperienced, they're just naive, and they're just inexperienced. Therapists too, I find generally are kind of a people-pleasing bunch. They want everybody to be happy. They can be caretakers. A lot of them don't like confrontation, and a lot of them don't like conflict. They're afraid of losing approval. They take things far personally than they should. This is just what I know about mental health professionals. And many times I have seen narcissists, borderline, antisocials, shop around for a therapist that will support their narrative. Years ago, I was in a situation where this person attempted to kind of recruit me as one of his henchmen. Showed up with muffins the first time. You know, you're a smart guy. I can tell you're a really smart guy. I like you. You know what? I really like you. I can tell that you're really smart. That type of stuff, which at first was like, ugh. I gave the muffins to my office mate. She really liked them. She said, "Thanks for the muffins." You're welcome. Just fun. Just because you're a great office mate, Steph. Anyways, once this person realized that the initial schmoozing tactics weren't working, he moved on to much more scary tactics, aggressive tactics. It shifted a few times. It got a lot scarier from there, and I'll spare those details from now. If you would like a separate video on that, you want to know some details, make sure that you like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you want that story, some of the other tactics that they use, but this video is not kind of intended for that. But I find this all the time, is that, a narcissist or an antisocial, and sometimes borderline, they will come to court because they've been shopping around, and they've found a therapist that will write them a letter and support their narrative without gathering enough information or doing the due diligence, and they're waving it around in court. Look what I have. And those therapists should not be doing that. And just so you know, if you find a therapist that let's say your ex brings a letter to court, and the letter says that you are the one who is the narcissist, and that therapist has never met you, they can get in big trouble for that. You can report them to the licensing board for that. If they're pinning a diagnosis like that onto you, even though they've never met you, talked to you, given you an assessment, given you a diagnosis, and they're just providing that information because your ex told them to, that therapist is way out of bounds. You can get them into some pretty big trouble for that, just so you know. But I've seen this so many times where narcissists just they know how to gather their henchmen, and they have this uncanny ability, and I've seen it so many times, and had a very close personal experience with this type of thing that actually kind of shook me a little bit. But it taught me a lot about people, and it taught me a lot about life, and it taught me a lot about narcissistic personality disorder. They know how to groom people. They know how to test you. They know how to poke you. They know how to gather their henchmen. Online, I've often seen it referred to as flying monkeys, which I find hilarious because it's just a reference to the Wizard of Oz and the witch's flying monkeys that just do her bidding without questioning. And it's funny, but it's also hauntingly accurate. I've seen it. I've just seen folks that for some reason it's almost like a spell. It almost seems like, and I don't believe in that. I'm not saying that I believe in that, but it resembles that. They just know how to pick someone out and groom them and get them to just be this mindless servant, a henchman for them that will just fall in line. And it can take a while for the flying monkey to be like, wait, hang on a second, I'm being taken advantage of here. I'm being manipulated. Narcissists especially just have a way of sniffing out people that have a low self-esteem, have poor boundaries, sort of have that meekness. Recently I was working with a teenager who just this smallness and tiny voice, and and it was like, you've got to. Here's a pro tip for life, everybody. Even if you don't feel it inside, you've got to sit up straight with your shoulders back and your chin up, and you've got to project your voice. Because you're doing this. If you do that, predatory types, they can smell it. They can smell who they can manipulate. So be very leery of when your ex shows up to court waving around a letter saying, oh, I've got a therapist that corroborates what I've said. You must exercise tremendous scrutiny towards that particular mental health professional. If you need help doing that, that is what my documentation review service is for. A lot of people have hired me and asked me to review court documentation because I can pick out things that are where the discrepancies are and where the issues are that an attorney just won't. Anytime I'm laughing because anytime that I talk about family court, I can't help it. I always throw family attorneys under the bus. I think they're horrible people. If I could fill a cruise ship with child molesters and family attorneys and sink it, the world would be a better place. I can't stand family attorneys. Family lawyers will tell you that they know how to handle a narcissist. They don't. Family attorneys will say anything to win. They're liars. They will destroy your family in order to make a profit. They are horrible people. I don't love guardian ad litems either. They tend to be big-headed, blowhardy idiots that like to hear themselves speak and know absolutely nothing. They care more about looking like a hot shot than they do actually helping kids, in my experience. I've had too many run-ins with guardian ad litems and just thought, who do you really think that you are? They're unbelievable. Soapbox, if you want help actually combing through that stuff, that's what partially what my services are for. So if your high conflict ex shows up to court waving around a letter from a therapist, your red flag should go up immediately, and that should be dubious because they are very good at gathering their henchmen. It's a good chance too that they had to shop around before finding that particular therapist to begin with. Probably one that was new, probably one that was a little less assertive and all of that. I gotta go to the office. I'm seeing a kiddo and pretty quick here. So have a good one.